cellmates, settle in. We have plenty to cover this midweek. But we first want to thank you for once again joining us on Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. You know, each day we can't wait to get right down here behind this desk to take you on a journey across Black America. We know that there are a lot of places you can go for news that focuses too narrowly on our blues. But right here at Fox Soul's Black Report, we aim to share stories that reflect our rhythm and blues, rich with informed perspective and analysis. From coast to coast, Black candidates may be on the cusp of making history in the 2022 midterms. From the United States Senate to the House seats in Congress and governorships, check this out. There have only been 7 Black senators and just 2 governors elected in the country since Reconstruction. That's it. Currently, the House of Representatives has at least 1 Black member from 28 states, and 56 members make up the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, this cycle, 11 Black candidates are running for the Senate, 5 for governorships, and 8 for positions like Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of State.
Well, some of the faves that I'm looking at, there are plenty of, when you talk about Black excellence and candidates. But for me, being a former resident of Georgia, of course, it's the Stacey Abrams race. And she's a bit behind. So we'll have to see how she continues to forge ahead with that. Just so many races on the local, on the federal level. LA is going to be a good one.
Karen Bass running for mayor of Los Angeles.
Against the billionaire who's spending all of his money.
$80 million.
To get his message out.
$80 million.
And it might seem to be working. Also, Val Demings and that race down in Florida. She's such a dynamic woman. We've talked about that before. So those are some key races. Of course, you can't forget about Herschel and the Rev. Those are some key races back down in Georgia that I'll be looking towards to seeing how they fare out.
That's right. That's right. And a certain former president is out there on the campaign trail for another big race on the East Coast.
Former President Barack Obama continues to make good on his promise to help his party's ticket as he just endorsed several candidates, including Democrat Wes Moore's bid to be Maryland's next governor. Moore's campaign recently released a TV ad featuring 44's endorsement of Moore, calling the candidate his friend and stating, quote, "The choice is clear." Now, Obama also dropped a video this week calling on young voters to get out and exercise their right to vote. Take a look.
Those of you who are just turning 18 and were only 3 or 4 when I was elected, my name's Barack Obama. I was the 44th president of the United States, and I have the best jump shot in White House history. That's what I do. I've heard a lot recently about how voting doesn't solve everything, and I can see why you might think that. It won't make Outer Banks or Euphoria Season 3 or Rihanna's new album drop any faster. It won't make sending gifts any less cool. Wait, gifts aren't cool anymore? Anyway, it won't even help you understand the most complicated questions in the universe. Like, why do I know so much about Pete Davidson's dating life? But here's what voting does do. It allows you to make your voice heard on the big issues, and it reinforces the incredible work you've done between elections, holding your leaders accountable. 2 years ago, more young people voted than in any other election since the 1970s. And because you did, the direction of the country changed. Look what's happened since. Hundreds of millions of Americans received life-saving vaccines. We made the biggest investment in history to fight climate change. We've forgiven billions of dollars in student loan debt. And we finally released that huge report about aliens. Oh, sorry, I mean unidentified aerial phenomena. I think these are some pretty good reasons to vote, but I don't need to tell you that there's a lot more that needs to be done. Here are 5 issues that depend on your vote. Number 1, a woman's right to choose. In 5 states, abortion protections are literally on the ballot. Number 2, gun safety. We have a chance to put in place common sense gun safety laws, but we need your help to do it. Number 3, schools. Local and state officials help determine the history our students learn and the books they're allowed to read. So do your research. We know you have the skills. Who knew there were so many secrets on the new Taylor Swift album?
I think I'm onto something.
Number 4, immigration. A lot of politicians don't actually know how to build a better immigration system, so instead they use refugees as props and play on fears. Look for candidates who are actually trying to solve the problem. Number 5, climate. We need elected officials who think climate change is real and are willing to fight for our future. And of course, we need to do everything we can to protect our country from the folks who are willing to undermine our democracy in order to win an election and who want to deny you the right to vote. I know a lot of you care about these issues more than this kid loves corn.
Cone.
So prove it. Make sure you're registered to vote at vote.org/Obama and then go vote. Our future depends on it. For those of you who are just...
Okay, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Tapping into the younger end of the culture. You better tap on in.
Lots of energy there.
Yeah, I loved it. Early voting has started, and November 8th is just around the corner, so make sure you, no matter what age, exercise your power.
And for those soulmates that are in Arizona, you should know that as early voting has started, in Arizona, 6 cases of alleged voter intimidation at drop box locations have been referred to the Justice Department in Washington. In one report, individuals are described dressed in camo-clad gear, and photos from election officials show at least 2 armed individuals outside of another drop box. According to ABC News, in another case, a couple in their 70s who parked their car in order to individually put their ballots in the drop box said they were approached by a group of 5 or 6 men in the parking lot.
And cosmetics company L'Oreal is being sued over claims that its chemical hair straightening products put women at risk and at increased risk of uterine cancer. Now, in the lawsuit headed up by civil rights attorney Ben Crump, was filed on behalf of a 32-year-old Missouri resident claiming that her uterine cancer was caused by regular and prolonged exposure to chemicals found in L'Oreal's hair care products. Now, the lawsuit comes just days after a study in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute was released, which reports that among women who frequently use hair straightening products, the risk of developing uterine cancer is increased by the age of 70. That study also suggests that Black women are at higher risk because of our frequent use of hair straightening products. So here's someone who's taken her health into her own hands, seeking out representation and actually filing a lawsuit against these companies as women in particular of color, because we use these products so frequently, are suffering from these ailments.
And this isn't just another story. This is a deeply personal issue for you.
It is. Having a mother who passed away from uterine cancer. There's so many questions. She went natural very early on, so I don't know if it was due to those type of products. I do remember early on her using talcum powder. And, you know, just when you have that kind of a loss, everything sort of runs back through your mind. And so as reports like this from the Institute the Cancer Research and that particular journal come out, you just recollect, what did my mom use? What products am I using? My girlfriends, my aunts, sorors, and it really makes you really pay attention to what you are not only putting in your body but using on your body.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, we'll continue to keep our eye on that. And remember the man who drove his SUV through a crowd of people? I do
remember that.
This was last November at a Christmas Day parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Killing 6 and injuring at least 61 others, including victims as young as 8 years old. Well, the jury found Darrell Brooks Jr. Guilty of 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Brooks was charged with 76 counts, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and 61 counts of reckless endangerment. Brooks has had numerous outbursts during the trial. He initially pleaded not guilty, but by reason of mental disease, which may have kept him out of prison. But Brooks changed his plea and decided to represent himself.
Why would someone with intent to kill and rage try to alert people of their presence, repeatedly honk their horn? You heard a detective, if you recall, testify that the vehicle that he observed was not only honking his horn, but was not speeding. So where does this rage kick in? Where does this insatiable intent to kill kick in.
Brooks faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison.
And to your home state, Nicordola, as black drivers in California are nearly 5 times more likely than white motorists to get pulled over by sheriffs for traffic violations. This is according to a new report on racial profiling across that state. Now, according to The Guardian, records from the sheriff's departments of L.A., San Diego, Sacramento, and Riverside show that black Californians were disproportionately stopped across those regions back in 2019, especially for minor infractions. Now, the data also found sheriff patrols spend significantly more time conducting those types of stops, more so than responding to calls for help.
That's just terrible. That's terrible. It's just another example.
Driving while black.
Of how dangerous it can be to drive while black.
This is very true.
Right? I mean, the sheriff's departments need to do a whole lot better. Hopefully the next generation of black folks don't have to get the talk, before they get their driver's license because of silly stuff like that.
And what did me in was they are leaning more into these small infractions rather than responding to calls for people who can be very much in need of help.
That's right.
Mind-blowing.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's what, some of the reformers, people that are saying we need to reform law enforcement. This is a part of what they're talking about. People aren't making this up. That was a study that was conducted. That's real data.
Yeah.
And also I'd add, if this is what's happening in states like California, imagine what's happening, in states, where, law enforcement is a bit tougher to rein in. Just saying. And speaking of law enforcement, the LA police chief confirmed that his detectives are investigating whether a recording last year that captured city council members' racist remarks was made illegally. The council president, Nuri Martinez, resigned in disgrace while 2 other council members resisted widespread calls to step down. Leaked recordings revealed a power grab scheme that would dilute black representation and power in districts. The secret gathering was laced with bigoted comments, including racist language that mocked black colleagues, as well as one of the councilman's young black sons. The plan was to protect Latino political strength.
And a new update now to the school shooting in St. Louis, as authorities say the gunman, 19-year-old Orlando Harris, a former student, left a note that read in part, and this is a quote, "I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I never had a girlfriend. I've never had a social life. I've been an isolated loner my entire life. This was the perfect storm for a mass shooting." That's the end of that quote. Now, St. Louis Police Commissioner Michael Sack read that letter at a recent press conference, saying that it is important to study what the gunman did and to study the warning signs as well, so that more tragedies like this can be prevented. You might know a 61-year-old teacher was killed while protecting her students, and a 15-year-old student by the name of Alexandria Bell was also killed. She would have turned Nicordola 16 this coming month. Also, several students were injured in Monday's attack. And I might add that that teacher, she cared so much, would drive like 40 miles a day just to be a part of her children's her life and to educate them and to mentor them. So she was well loved and respected at that school, in that community. And there was some later interviews with the young girl's father, who happened to live in LA, and just the devastation and the tears on his face. I'm hoping that this will prompt more measures to get these guns out of folks' hands. And his arsenal was unreal. When you see the ammunition that he had and that he planted in the school. So there's still questions as to how he was able to infiltrate in that way.
Yeah, this story definitely tugs at the heartstrings.
It does.
It's just another example of just how far teachers are willing to go in order to keep their students safe. We saw this in Uvalde. We saw this at Sandy Hook. We've seen this in too many school shootings, across the country. It is just as heartbreaking to learn that the shooter, believed that this was, you know, what they needed to do, you know, that this was an acceptable course of action.
And a young black male
Right.
this time, very different.
An
Very
acceptable
different.
course of action, you know, in light of, you know, some of the experiences that he had. I mean, you know, nobody wins in scenarios like this, right? You know, and so, you know, the shooter has taken precious lives, and you know, we see too much of this. And this is also part of the reason why the president has made it his #1 priority to get assault weapons off the streets. You know, we really need to flex at the ballot and keep stuff like this from happening.
Yeah. Well, we're going to continue our flex as October is not over just yet, as Domestic Violence Awareness Month continues.